Alright guys, welcome back to the garage. Today we're gonna film, we're gonna build a little F-86. Mostly doing this because somebody online got on my nerves. So basically here's what the airplane looks like. We're gonna get the manual out of the way, and then just get all the parts out of there. Here's the drop tanks for the wings. Both elevators, vertical fin, non-working rudder, the canopy, the fuselage, nice little cat in there. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but okay, whatever. 2-axis gyro and the wing. In true fashion, if you've seen any of my other builds, there's 2 push rods. So if you've seen it in my other builds in true fashion, or remember some of the other ones, get that out of the way. Now I have this giant stand. I had to put the arms backwards because this is a small airplane. The first thing we're gonna do is cut up all these little baggies and get the parts out of the way. I mean, never built one of these little ones. Not like it's rocket science. Usually with any airplane, you start with the tail and work your way up. You can start wherever you want, obviously. I'm just gonna start by opening up all the parts and making sure I have everything. Canopy, like I said, vertical fin and non-working rudder. Just make sure that when you're cutting into these bags, you don't accidentally cut into the parts. And get that out of the way. Nice little rudder. Excuse me, vertical fin because it has no rudder. Cut up the fuselage. Now I did build the AMX jet of this ones, so I know they take their little batteries, and I didn't get one with the battery. I got my own batteries. I did have one of the stock radios from before, so what I'm probably gonna do is just use the stock radio for now, and later on just go ahead and use my own radio. But let me fight here with the tape. Get this out of the way. Get this unwrapped, I should say. Then we can start. Nice, beautiful fuselage. I don't know what the hell they meant with the cat. I don't know if it's scaled. I doubt it, but whatever, you know, it is what it is. Fan is already installed in there. This is one of the backpack jets. Elevator push rod is already there, both sides. Let me just empty out the wing. Now, so like I said, I did order the PNP version, or this one does not come with the radio and the battery. I got, like I said, I already had some, and at the end of the day, I use my Futaba. I'll set it up on their radio, just so people can see that it's doable, and then I'll go ahead and change it over to my Futaba. The wing uses one servo in the middle. I guess the flaps take over as ailerons, because the ailerons are supposed to be out here. These are the flaps. No big deal. And I don't really think I need to wait to glue the wing on if I wanted to, because there's only the one servo and the controls are in the bottom. So basically all you would have to do is just pass the servo wire to the top. I don't see a completed hole. I see the piece right here where the servo wire could go up through. Here's, you can see the speed controller down here, and then the elevator servo. So then the other one, you would just pass the servo through. So the servo's on the front of the wing right there. I mean, come on, it's only obvious that you would pass the connection right there. And you can get a servo, I mean, an X-Acto knife and cut it out. The foam is thin enough where you can just pass the cable through, like so. Now the cable's in there, and you would just, there you go, pull it out, and then you can put in your receiver wherever you want. But like I said, these usually you start with everything with the tail. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this out of the way for now, and the tanks. Now, not included with the kit that I have here is foam safe CA. So make sure you're using foam safe glue or 5-minute epoxy. These are the type of batteries that it uses, 850 milliamps, 3S batteries. Now the battery itself that I have has a DIN connector, but I always switch them out to the JST connector, just because, you know, it's a big honky connector for the wires. And then the actual airplane comes with this tiny little bullet connectors. I mean, if you don't know what you're looking at, you might not think that these are the connectors. There are adapters out there, for example this one, that you can connect and have the JST connector on there, or you can just cut those out. You can just cut those out and solder your own JST connector, or you can get an adapter from the bullets to the JST. So, having said that, we'll get started with the tail. I mean, the two elevators. Oh, I guess I gotta cut them out. And again, just be sure that when you're cutting these open, you don't cut yourself first of all, and then that you're not cutting into the pieces. Now, if you're big into F-86, you know that the elevators are supposed to have a little dihedral. F-86s had it. FJ3s had the flat tail. So let's see which one this is. Has a little dihedral. So yeah, even for a little airplane, they did it right. If this elevators were flat, and meaning that if they were at an angle, I mean, if they were not at an angle, this one has them at a little angle. I don't know if it's enough to say it's scale. It looks like it to me, but if they were completely flat like this, then that's the tail of the Fury. And then so basically test fit the parts. You can see that this one is not going all the way in, and you know, you can just put it in like that, or you can put some rough up the end right there. One of the things I do on all my airplanes, on all my foam airplanes, this one fits a lot better, is I rough up the paint. And you don't have to do it, but you get a better glue joint if you do. So just basically get your X-Acto knife or whatever you have on there, and just scrape up the paint or some of the paint where you're going to glue it at. So this part is going to be glued to the fuselage, and I'm just going to go ahead and put in the blade going through there, just getting out some of the paint. One of them is done. Second one is done. Well, I started the second one, I should say. And I noticed here on the front, the elevator itself has a little nub on the front. It's on both of them. I don't know if it's supposed to be there or if it's supposed to be flat. I'm gonna make sure both of mine are flat. That one fits perfectly right there. And let's check the other one out now. And I had to work on this one a little bit because it does fit in there, but it's a little tight, or sticks out a little bit. Now, you don't have to be so picky, if you will. I'm just going to take a little piece off right here in the top, in the front, excuse me, and just trim this down a little bit, just so it'll fit to my liking. And now I like the way it fits. The little piece is still in the front right there. I'm going to make it flat, just for my style, or just for my liking, I should say. And this part is going to get glued to the fuselage, so you can scrape some of the little paint off there too if you want. If you notice, it has little holes already there, and that just promotes adhesion. If it didn't have them, sometimes I will put them in there myself. I'll just get like a little X-Acto knife and just punch it, just so it has a little bit more to grab on. I'm gonna go ahead and just look at the fuselage. I don't think I can clean up anything in there without messing up the paint, so I'm not even gonna try it. I think that if I try to clean up the inside with my little knives that I have here, it'll just mess up. So I'm just gonna go ahead and call that good enough. Get some of my foam safe epoxy and put it on the flying surface. Actually, well, not the part that moves, but you know what I meant. This part is the one that's going to be moving. Here's where the elevator connects. Put some CA on there, and I'm not going to use any kicker on it because it'll just on these type of glue, if you put too much kicker on there, it'll just make it turn white, and that just I'd rather hold it for a minute or two and just let it dry out, then put the kicker on it. And you don't have to keep it there until it's completely solid, just till it doesn't move. And if I put the other one on, it'll help me hold them both together at the one time and not have to worry about holding on one in there. So there's the second one. And now I'm just holding both of them on. And if you look at the back of the tail, you know that they look about flush or even with the little nub right here. In hindsight, I guess I should have gone and go get the CA kicker, because it's still taking a couple of minutes to dry. But all I want them to do is just hold the position there, and once they start holding the position, I can move on to something else. And the next thing I'm going to move on to is going to be the vertical fin. And again, I'm just going to make sure that it's flat. Looks like the mold extrusion part is there. I mean, it's not a big deal. I'm just going to sand some of the paint off of here and scrape some of the one in the vertical fin, and then I'll glue it in there. I mean, this airplane's not going to go ballistic, so you don't have to go all on out and make sure that it's super strong, but you do want to get a good glue joint. So I'm just going to scrape off some of the foam, mostly the paint. Try not to damage the actual foam, except here where the extrusion part, I just want it flat. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue removing some paint before I glue this onto the airplane. Now, I'm not gonna name the gentleman but basically he said this plane was a counterfeit, and that nobody in their right mind, nobody with a RC knowledge would be able to put it together and fly it. So just because of that, I purchased my own. I don't get them free. Some of them are, you know, when I'm test flying or they want to verify CG and stuff like that, yeah, sure, they'll send me some of those to test out. But I mean, this one, because I wanted to prove somebody wrong, I went ahead and purchased it myself. So again, in case you can't see with the camera, I'm just taking out some of the paint. This one should be dry already, but if not, I'll keep checking them. and I'm just gonna go ahead and glue in the vertical fin. You want both of your elevators to be even. If you look at it on the back, you don't want one to be higher, you know, pointing higher than the other one. And I'll show you what I mean. Right now with the vertical fin, you want it to be perfectly vertical in relation to the airplane. And just fit it into the slot. And this one doesn't take a lot because it actually did line up properly with the red line, and it did fit in the back. When you look at the tail, you want both of these to be at the same angle or height, just so you get a straight level flight. If one of them is higher than the other one, you're gonna have elevator trim problems. And once you if you have those problems, once you have the elevator trimmed out, you'll be fine. But there's basically the tail, you know, the two elevators, the vertical fin. Now I'm not gonna go ahead and do the push rods yet because I want the tail to dry first. So once that tail is dry, then I can proceed there. I guess it's now as good as time as ever to go ahead and look at the manual and see what's in there. Basic, thank you for purchasing your airplane, blah blah blah. So this one takes a 3S950 and I have an 850, so I'll get I can use an 850 or I can buy some 950s, no big deal. Hey, look at that, it tells you to start with the tail. Elevator, elevator, then the push rod, push rod, push rod, aileron, push rod. And then what's the next part? Aileron push rods, and then glue the wing to the fuselage. There is a cover for the ailerons, aileron servo. I'll do that, and then it's just basically connecting everything. So the other things that I already had here, I already had the microphone 6 channel, so I can set that up. I already had their 6-channel radio, so I'll set it up with that. And it is gonna need V-tail. Actually no, because it has the ailerons in there working properly. So let's check the aileron, see if it dried up. Excuse me, let's check the elevators and the rudder. Those look like they're fine. I'm gonna check the push rod for the ailerons now, since I'm still waiting for that to completely dry. And we'll do some other work. Alright, so it has drop tanks. These are nice. I wouldn't skip these, installing these, mainly because it'll help you see the airplane better, number one. And number two, when you land on the grass or whatever, this will take the scuffing. This will take the brunt of your landing gear, of your landings. So, I mean, it doesn't have wheels, so this is better than nothing. Both the ailerons are already loose. Go into my hardware kit here. And basically these are the connectors. You want this part right here to be facing the channel on your aileron. Same thing with the elevator. You want them to be facing forward. So if you look at it, you would install them like this, and mainly because that's where your control surfaces always need to be. The push rod in the joint is supposed to be right where the channel is at, where the pivot is at. So that's what you would want them. The only thing that's sticking out here is that it's in an angle. So they already put a bend on the push rod. So then you would, so that way it's not pulling the servo to the side if it was going straight. So this is what the servo push rod is supposed to look like once installed. There's a Z-bend, and there's the here, let me just put it in. Well, why don't we just go ahead and glue them on there so they're on there permanently. So put a little bit of foam safe CA on it again. You don't have to go crazy with the CA. Make sure it fits on there good. Now, I didn't have a lot of it coming out, whatever, in there, but now it's a good time to just clean off any excess epoxy or CA. You don't want it gushing out, but you want to make sure you have enough there to cover both the front and the back. Again, if it's you know, you can take off some of the paint here to help you get a good glue joint. If you're gonna do the little holes on it, just make sure you don't go through the whole wing. I mean, you could put a little, you know, just little indentation down there, and what happens is those will get filled with glue, and it acts kind of like a nail for you to keep the control arm in place. So I'm gonna go ahead and put in a little bit of glue on that one, just like I did the other side. And put in my control horn in there. We'll wait for those to dry a little bit. Make sure it's moving the right amount. And while that's gluing, I'm gonna go ahead and put in the wing tanks. Again, I'm just scuffing it a little bit, trying to get the paint out of the way, or a little bit of paint out of the way. Especially on this side, it has the decal going over where the cavity is for the wing tank. I mean, the decal is not going to show because the wing tank's on the way, so might as well get a good clean surface to put your tanks on it. And these ones are pretty clean already. They're dirty white. Same thing with this one. You see it has paint on the side, but the top is pretty dry. Now, is there a left and a right? Nope, not really. So you're just gonna put in whichever one you want on each side. And it is best to put the glue on the actual surface here, because that way it's not dripping from your tank. And again, you don't have to overdo it. You just gotta make sure, you know, you have enough in there for your tank. And one tank is in there. Whoops. One tank is in there, like so. Get the other tank and put a little bit of glue there on the other side. You don't see my glue running. You don't need to make sure that you have, you know, the whole area exposed with glue, or too much glue on there. All it's gonna do, if you overfill it, it's gonna seep out when you put the tank in or anything else. If you look at it, no glue came out on that side, and no glue squeezed out of this side. So we did a good job there gluing that, and we'll let that dry. And while that dries, we'll go ahead again and move back to the fuselage. So, all right, back to the aileron. So basically, the control arm there on the servo arm has obviously a lot of holes in there. It has 5 of them in there. The further out you are on this control arm or the servo arm, the more control the airplane is going to have. So for example, if you know, I believe this one calls for like something like 8mm. So the further out you go, the more travel is going to give it, basically. So I'm just going to put them in the middle. Again, go ahead and loosen up your holes if you're doing it the same way I did, and then just basically the middle hole, the third one out from the center out. And what I just do, I mean, you don't have to go ahead and go get an X-Acto knife and punch the hole bigger. What I just usually do is just spin the control arm in there, the control rod in there, and it'll go in. If not, then go ahead and, you know, there it goes, it's in. And then it's a Z band, so you're just gonna have to put it in there, and then once it's in there, just bend it over. Now, again, you're gonna have to get it to go into the hole there. So if you had done this before you glued it, then you're good. But in this case, what do you call it? We're gonna go ahead and go and you know, push the rod in there. So the first thing you need to do is you need to turn the servo to all the way the opposite direction, so the control rod pulls out, and then just basically pull back on the control surface until you have enough clearance there for the push rod to go in, and there you go. It is now connected. It's connected to both sides. So once you get it back in there where you need it, if the servo's flat right here, then go ahead and tighten up, you know, make sure your control surface, your aileron, is flat on both sides right there. If it is, just go ahead and hand tighten the screw at first. And then let me fix this one, the other side. So I'm going to loosen it up, making sure it looks flat or level, and then just hand tighten them in there. Then take your screwdriver and go ahead and tighten it up a little bit. Be careful, you know, hold it. Don't just expect the control surface to hold while you're tightening it in there, because you're going to damage the airplane. So just hold the push rod with your hand so it doesn't move, and then just tighten it in there, and you're good. So that's the aileron. The elevator is already connected. We're going to go ahead and move on to the radio. Now, in most radios, and I say most because Spectrum is different, but like Futaba and every other radio, ailerons is always channel 1. So I'm going to put channel 1 for the ailerons right here. And the signal cable is facing towards the inside, because if you look at this one, it has the 1 and then the orange. The orange is to signify that that's where the lead or the signal wire is supposed to be facing. If you see the throttle here, the speed controller has the red, black, and white. This one has brown, red, and yellow. The signal is the yellow. In this case, it's the white. And there's different ones out there. So I connected the elevator to the wrong one. My bad. So I'm gonna go ahead and hook up the elevator to channel 2. Aileron, the one that came through the middle of the fuselage, into channel 1. And your speed controller is always channel 3. So if you had channel 4, that would be rudder or steering. Channel 5 is usually reed tracks. Channel 6 is usually flaps. Channel 7, 8, 9 is whatever you want it to be. Like, for example, if you have a bomb drop, you can put it in channel 7, 8, or 9, or whatever. This is basically a 6-channel radio, and we're only using 3. Now, since I didn't have the correct battery with the correct connector on it, I have the 850 with the Dean style connector. I just got another 2S battery. Yes, this is not enough power for this airplane, but it allows me to connect the radio and use the radio and make sure it's set up correctly. So before you put the gyro on, before you do anything else, make sure everything is working the way it's supposed to be. So I'm gonna go ahead and power the radio, then just place the battery here to connect it, just to make sure that. And the only thing we want to do is we want to make sure the ailerons and the elevator are correct. So if you see the elevator is moving, but if you look at the back, the surface is not level. I didn't level them off like I did with the ailerons. So ailerons. So my aileron channel is backwards. If you know anything about RC, and I just say this because some people just don't know anything. When you move your aileron channel, whatever side you're moving it to, that aileron side should go up. So right now this channel is backwards. I'm gonna go ahead and just basically, the aileron, it says reverse and normal. And right now the aileron is normal, so I'm gonna go ahead and reverse it. And now, whenever I put the aileron to that, for example, I'm making it go left, the left aileron here should go up. There you go. And vice versa. The right aileron should go up when I go right. So that one's correct. The elevator is actually correct. The only thing I need to do there is tighten up the set screw and level them off. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. While the radio is already on, we're going to go ahead and make sure that the elevators are flush or flat with the horizontal stabilizer. And then once they're there, you just go ahead and tighten up the set screw for the push rod there. So since those are already done or already correct, I'm just gonna hold the wire, kind of try to hold the wire there, and just tighten up the screw, the set screw. And do the same thing for the other one. Make sure it is level. And then once you're satisfied with it being level, you go ahead and tighten up the set screw. Again, you want to hold the wire so it's not trying to damage the airplane when you do that. And now the elevators are set correctly. Up, down. This is up. This is down. Right aileron, left aileron. So we're good. The only thing we need to do is just spin the fan to make sure we're getting the air the proper direction. Now this battery is not big enough for this airplane, so I don't think it's gonna beep or work, but we're gonna try it anyway. And yes, it is. It does work. And the only thing that I did was to make sure that the actual fan was spinning the correct way. When you put the throttle up over here, the exhaust, the air should be coming out the back right here, and it is coming out there. And even though this is not the correct battery, this is only a 2-cell, it needs a 3-cell. That sounded like it had enough power. So once you have this connected, then you can go ahead and start with the gyro. I'm going to go ahead and unplug this. We know the ailerons and the elevator are moving the correct way. You need to make sure all of that is working properly before you try to do a gyro. Now, what is this gyro? What is it going to do for you? This gyro is not going to help you fly the airplane. It's not going to stabilize it for you. If you take your hands off the radio, it's not going to make it fly by itself. This gyro helps you in strong winds. If you're out there and the strong winds are pushing the airplane around, it'll move the aileron for you slightly to correct it. It is not meant to stabilize the airplane for you if you take your hands off of the controls. And you know, if you're gonna crash or whatever, and then you just let go of the airplane, that's not gonna work. Basically, one of these is for the ailerons and the other one is for the elevator, and you connect the leads coming out of the aileron and the elevator into the gyro, and then the other ones to the airplane. And if I remember correctly, the ones closest to me are for the radio. So this would be the aileron, and this would be the elevator. And now I'll take the other cables here. The bottom one was the aileron, and the top one was the elevator. Now if you notice, all the connectors are facing the same way. They're all showing the lead, the signal leads to the proper side. If I got these right, then you will see in here when I plug them up, first of all, this is elevator, and this is aileron. Hopefully I did them on the correct location on the gyro. And what you need to do is you need to make sure the gyro is in a flat and level surface. See how when I let it go, it starts rising? It has to be flat. So it has to stay flat. And then it has to stay flat. So I'm probably gonna hold it or just put the battery on top of it so it does not move. So turn on the radio, and then I'm gonna put this on top of the gyro so it's perfectly flat and level. So what you need to do is you need to hold the airplane flat and level in order for that gyro to initialize. If you're moving the airplane around like this, like I am right now, that the gyro is not gonna set up. First of all, it needs to be flat and level. And go ahead and plug it up. And you see the gyro there blinking already. Now let's see if we have it initialized the right way. If I put the channels the right way. So no right aileron, no elevator. So I connected them backwards. So when I go ahead and unplug the battery and move the cables, from one side to the other. There we go. It could very well be that I have them upside, the signal wires going the wrong way. but you know, it's good because that way you get to see it here. So now I have the gyro, and I have the cables coming from the airplane, aileron, elevator, and then from the gyro to the radio on closest to me. So we'll try that again. Put the battery in there. The radio's still on. The radio must always be on, and let the airplane stabilize. You know, not be moving it around. It has to be flat and level. So go ahead and plug it up. And again, there was too much movement. It has to be on a flat and level surface. All right, once you have your radio on and you have the airplane on a flat and level surface, try not to move the airplane around. I'm moving it around a lot. It has to stabilize, and it has to detect no movement when you turn on the radio. If you don't hear the elevators bleep and go up and down, that means it was not stabilized. So I gotta go ahead and unplug it again. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move it closer to the. I got the radio basically pushing into the airplane, so it's not swinging back and forth. I'm gonna go ahead and plug it up, and you'll see the light is in there blinking, and then there you go. The elevator went up and down real slightly. That means the gyro is now set up and working properly. Now I haven't checked the gain, or I haven't done anything to it yet, but basically when you move it, when you pick it up and you move the airplane, you hear the elevator servo moving, you hear the aileron servo moving, both of them. They're supposed to compensate in the air a little bit. And see, now if I put it upside down, you can see the servo move slightly. It's not moving enough. I gotta set the sensitivity a little bit more. If you see it, there's the aileron. See, when I bank it, the gyro is compensating. So then you gotta see where you want it. Since this is a small airplane, it doesn't require a lot of movement. But the key to it is you cannot move this airplane when you set up the battery, when you first connect the battery. It has to be in a flat and level surface in order for the gyro to work. Now, the biggest gripe that my customer had was that he couldn't close the canopy. He said, "Oh, because of the gyro and the receiver, that he cannot close the canopy." He goes, "There's no way for this thing to work in there." So, if I was to just put it like this, well, actually, the battery would have to go in the front over here. Most likely, I gotta check the manual and see where it says whether the battery goes in the front here or in the back. There's the battery. Let me go ahead and plug the wires properly. There's the battery. You would need to put the gyro below where it's not moving, and then you would put Velcro on the actual receiver. Obviously my big battery that has a what do you call it, T connector, doesn't fit in there. But his biggest gripe is like, "Oh, it doesn't fit." I mean, right now I'm just holding it in there. It needs Velcro. And then come on, get in there. And basically, yeah, the front goes in there like that. I gotta change that connector still because it's too big. And you gotta Velcro all your stuff in there, and then just go ahead and close it. Like I said, my connector is getting on the way. Let me put it in there better. I'm just, you know, shoving it in there. It's not in there properly. So glue in, not glue in, but put in your gyro where it needs to go, and then just Velcro it in there, and then get your cables out of the way. My biggest thing right now is getting out of the way is this big connector that I have for my battery. But again, like I said, I'm changing it over to I'm changing it over to a JST. But once you get your cables out of the way, go ahead and put your canopy in there. it doesn't take rocket science. You know, you just gotta work on it and get the cables in there. Mine, I'm having problems hitting the receiver right now because it's not permanent. But you know, what do you expect in a half an hour build so far? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and leave it like this. I'll go get the proper connector for my battery, and once I have it connected, I'll plug it up and show it to you guys. Thanks for watching.